Alrighty, guys, I wanted to address this here on the Access Blockbusters Pod because I think this is a narrative that's been going around here. And right off the bat, if you've read the title of the segment in the description of the podcast, or if you're just watching the separate segment, you guys know we're going to be talking about why I think Robert Pattinson as Batman, I should say, in the DCU is a terrible idea. Now, just to preface this before all the angry comments are coming in, which I'm sure they already are, because this is an idea that has seemed to gain a lot of popularity recently. So I want to say this first. If you think that this is, if you think I'm crazy and you think that Robert Pattinson's Batman being in the DCU is a great idea, I'm not trying to disrespect, your idea or anything. I'm not saying that it's illegitimate, and I'm not trying to say anything like that. Really, again, this is me sharing my own personal thoughts about why I think it's a terrible idea, and I'd welcome to hear, your personal thoughts about why you disagree, or if you agree, then let me know as well. But I think, not to say that I'm trying to say, no, your idea, your rationale, your experiences with this, it's all wrong. I'm just trying to say this is my own personal experience. Now, by the way, to also preface this discussion, I understand if people think that Robert Pattinson's Batman should be in the DCU. The question that we're not going to talk about that much in this video, because I just don't think it's that relevant, is Robert Pattinson going to be in the DCU as Batman, I think is all but dead. I don't quite understand what that narrative is about, because that's more objective. That's not just my own personal thoughts. That's an objective thing. James Gunn himself has been like, no, we're not doing that. Andy Muschietti, who's directing, as far as we know, Brave and the Bold, is like, no, we're not doing that. It just, on an objective level, we're gonna have the discussion in this segment about whether or not he should be the DCU's Batman. But the fact that, the question of, is he going to be the DCU's Batman? It seems like that question's been answered. And I thought it was an obvious one, but maybe not. And so then James Gunn was like, no. I mean, we thought about it because we thought about everything. That's what I took his comments to mean. But no, he's not going to be the DCU's Batman. And Muschietti was like, no, he's not going to be the DCU's Batman. So just wanted to clarify that and point that out. Let me dive into what the meat of this segment is. Why I think Robert Pattinson's Batman being in the DCU is just a terrible idea. And here's the thing. I'm not saying this because I have this agenda against the DCU or agenda against the Pattinson universe. For those of you who have been watching the channel, and by the way, just because I thought Creature Commandos was fine doesn't mean that I'm a DCU hater all of a sudden, even though I'm sure people are going to say that. I'm really excited for Superman. I'm really excited for this new cinematic universe to launch and to see what its potential can be. I'm really, really, really excited for it. And I actually think it is because of that. And it is because you've seen it on the channel. I love the Batman. I loved the Penguin. It is because I love both universes incredibly much that I think it's a terrible idea to cross them over. So here's the thing. I think it just doesn't fit the tones. The two tones cannot mesh together in a way that makes a lot of sense. That is really what it comes down to. There are other auxiliary reasons why I think that this is not a good idea either. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that if you put Robert Pattinson's Batman and Robert Pattinson's Gotham City into a world that has Dr. Phosphorus and Circe and Wonder Woman and lanterns, is there a way to make it work? Sure. Do I think it's the most constructive use of the characters? No, I do not. Because I think that the Batman that they're building up in that, Pattinson universe is a grounded Batman where aliens don't exist, and again, we could be wrong, maybe aliens do exist, but from what we saw, it's like the Penguin took place in a real, it feels like it could be a real city. Gotham City is a real city in America. Not to say that the DCU, doesn't look like that, but James Gunn has even said, right? He's even said that, yeah, of course there are Earth-based elements and things like that, but it's almost like a fantasy world. It's not like, oh, everything's taking place. He's actually compared it to the MC, where he's like, no, it's not like everything's just going to take place in New York, like normal New York with Avengers just flying around. This is going to be world building. We're going to build Metropolis, and we're going to build our own Gotham City. The Batman universe is not doing that. And that's amazing because, again, I love what they're doing in the Batman universe. And I think that in order to preserve that integrity, it would be a very strange choice to put that version of Robert Pattinson's Batman into a world with gods and monsters. I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. I remember at the time, actually in 2012, 2013, 2014, people were like, why isn't Christian Bale's Batman being, put into the DCEU? And I think that even then that was a mismatch. And I think that this is even more of a mismatch, to put these two characters there. But here's the other thing, right? Because let's just say they do it. There's a way to make almost anything work in movies and films. So by me saying that, I'm not saying it's impossible. Like, anything's possible. Sure, you could put Robert Pattinson's Batman in the DCU, and sure, there is a world in which that works and it makes sense. But the thing is, why would we deprive ourselves of having two really good Batmen, right? Why would we deprive ourselves of that? Like, I get it, the idea of, oh, one good thing, two good things, put them together, an even better thing. But, like, why? I feel like it doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't we just let these two separate, parallel streams run, take their own course, right? Let the Batman universe be the Batman universe, the Pattinson universe, and let the DCU Batman be different. By the way, the DCU Batman is already described to be way different than the one that Robert Pattinson is going to be. Just by virtue of the DCU Batman has a kid, Damian Wayne, who is old enough to fight. He's going to be Robin. So at least, like, I know that, in some iterations of the comics, Damian Wayne is, Batman has him pretty young and stuff. But, like, that's a Batman who's a dad, like 40s, maybe late 30s at the most. And I know that Robert Pattinson himself as an actor is around that age, maybe. But in the universe itself, like I'm talking about in the Batman universe, he's in year 2 of being Batman. And sure, you could, I don't know, maybe you could say, well, he started out being Batman much later in life, whatever. It seems like, though, from the Batman, he was portraying a genuine year 2 Batman, like in his mid-20s, just starting out crime fighting and really taking on to the streets. Like, that's a year 2 Batman. And I don't understand why a year 2 Batman needs to be, the same Batman in the DCU that James Gunn described as having Damian Wayne with the Bat family. I don't understand why that has to be the case. Because again, I think just like how, and I've, as much as I hate to see these comments, I have gotten these comments of, I hope that the MCU crashes and burns, or I hope the DCEU, or DCU crashes and burns, because go Marvel, go DC. And in my head, I'm like, but why can't we have both that are good? Isn't it better for us to have both that are good? And in my opinion, I think it's the same thing here. Why? What precludes us from having both an amazing Robert Pattinson universe and an amazing DCU with two different Batmen? And so, honestly, I think that combining the two, it doesn't really make sense. If you had a Robert Pattinson Batman universe that was going super well, and it also just stylistically was very similar to what James Gunn looks like he's setting up here. Like in the Batman, you had Clayface, like the alien kind of version of Clayface, and you had, I don't know, a Weasel show up and whatnot, and it was kind of a more like fantastical universe, and the Penguin was really like, the Penguin, like a metahuman Penguin and whatnot. Then yeah, I mean, maybe we can have a different discussion there. Even then, I might be like, still keep them a little bit separate, just because why not? Like, why not try to have two separate things? But it's really the two things in conjunction for me. Number one, the tones are so separate. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, in order to make those two things fit together, you'd have to bend over backwards. But number two, I think it benefits us more to just have two equally as good things going on at the same time. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, because yeah, I know there are a lot of people who really want Robert Pattinson's Batman to be in the DCU. I'm saying, coming from a place, because I'm not coming from a place where like I hate, the DCU and I think it needs Robert Pattinson, or vice versa. No, I'm saying this from a place where I love both. Or at least I love the Batman universe, and I love the concept and what's going on, hopefully in the DCU, and I want it to thrive. And so I think that it makes more sense to me in that way. But guys, what do you think about this? Do you think that, the Robert Pattinson Batman should be the DCU's Batman, or do you think they should be separate? Let me know in the comments down below.